In this video, we're going to be putting this brand new ZOSKAY 45kg servo to the test in my Axial Gladiator. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Troy. This is Roadside RC. You'll tend to find me bashing or crawling or drifting or racing, plus doing product review videos and how-tos. And I have been using these ZOSKAY servos for years and years now, and they just keep coming out with stronger ones. So for years, it's been a 35kg was kind of the standard, and that's what I used in a lot of my crawlers and everything. Always been really happy with it. Earlier, 2023, they came out with a 40, and then here right at the very end of 2023, a 45kg. So still the same standard size and still very reasonably priced. I believe this thing comes in as under $1 per kg, which is pretty wild. I think this thing, it was like $42, something along those lines. So I'll leave a link to it down in the video description where you can actually see all the different specs and you can look at it. High voltage capable. Let's get it in this crawler and see just how good it does. This is my Axial Gladiator. It has been through absolutely everything, and it needs a servo upgrade. I think the stock Spectrum servos had it. What do you think? On the top side, I got the motor cover off. I got the servo unplugged and wire back over here. We still have 4 screws up here at the top that actually hold the servo physically in. But first, we're going to come down here on this side, and we're going to get this linkage off of the tie rod over here to the side. That way, once we get the other screws out, we can just pull it out through the top. And there is the old servo out. Again, it's always good to compare dimensions and make sure there's nothing that surprises you as far as the dimensions go. It's always good to remember that servo horn, when everything is pointed straight, that servo horn is pointed straight forward. So we want to make sure as we reassemble that we're doing the same thing over here. Now, one thing to note about that is the Spectrum stuff that Horizon Hobbies uses, for some reason they use a 23-tooth servo horn, which is not industry standard. ZOSKAY is part of the industry standard, which is a 25-tooth servo horn. So clearly, factory servo horn is not going to bolt up over here. When you do purchase a ZOSKAY servo, it does come with a servo horn, so that is great news. If you set them next to each other, center line to center line, you'll see that the ZOSKAY is actually longer, and that is going to be an issue for clearance in underneath the truck. So what we're going to want to do is actually take it over to the grinder, and I'm going to remove this outer screw hole and some of this material down here to make sure that it doesn't hit the chassis frame rails of the truck any more than this did. If you do not want to go through that, then Horizon Hobby Axial, they actually do sell a 25-tooth metal servo horn. I'll leave a link to it down in the video description so that you can see it and purchase it if you want to just directly buy it. Before I go any further, I've actually plugged the servo in. I have the vehicle plugged in, and now turned on. So we're going to go ahead and of course make sure that the servo works. Find my steering trim and make sure that my steering trim is also centered. And then we're going to go ahead and put the servo horn on. These are locking servo horns, so they do have screws here on either side. I do highly suggest that you use some kind of a thread locker on these screws and on the screw that holds the servo horn into the screw, because those are all metal on metal and you don't want them to loosen with vibration over time. With all of that now assembled, I can just slide the servo down in place and go ahead and reattach it with the 4 screws that it had on there before. Let's see, first test. Oh my. That is much faster. Of course, there's no weight on it right now, so that doesn't really count. Lots of servos can be fast when there's no weight on it. But now, a couple of words of warning: when you do something like this, you will want to reset the endpoints in your controller to the vehicle now with the new servo in it, because you do not want to overextend that servo and burn it out. So that's one step. It'll be different depending on whatever controller you have, so you'll have to look up the manual for your controller. Second thing, this is a high voltage servo, so it should be able to go up to 8.4 volts, but I cannot test that here today with this truck because this is still the stock Spectrum receiver and ESC in here, along with the Spectrum shift servo, which definitely cannot handle the extra voltage. So we're just going to run it at the standard lower voltage. As a quick test here, I'm going to hold the wheel. It moves the truck. That is absolutely, I hope you can see that. It literally just shifts the rear of the truck around, and that is how powerful that servo is. And go give it a test drive. back from the test drive, and honestly that was really cool. Purposely drove this thing into places where I wanted the front tires to get bound up, and I wanted to see if the servo had enough power to move them. And man, I mean, I even had it at one time where the whole truck is sitting on the front and bound up down, and the front tires still just did whatever I asked of them. So that is absolutely awesome. That is what I'm looking for in a crawler servo, and this thing's literally $40. $40 servo doing all that. But there's a chance that maybe your truck's not as heavy as mine. Maybe it's lighter weight. You could save even a little bit more money by going all the way down to like the 35kg servo. I've been running one of those in a lot of my crawlers for years now without any kind of issue. So just one thing to consider. Both of these are really, really good. I will leave you a link down in the video description to them. Cool thing about it, it's an affiliate link. So if you buy that servo from that link, you pay the same price. I get an itty bitty little kickback that helps fund the channel. Every little bit helps. So thank you for watching. If you have any other questions about what I have done, leave them down in the video comments below and I'll be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'll have a crawling playlist pop up over here to your right. Go check one of those out and maybe we'll see you in one of those videos. Thank you and goodbye.